Hello, welcome. I'm Riza with Full Awakening, and I'm here to bring you your story of awakening for May. I'm here with episode 17, conversation partner Aileen Penn, and there is a lot of excitement from both the earthly realms and the other side realms about today's conversation. I can't wait to see where it leads us. There's so much good, juicy stuff waiting for us on the inside of this conversation. So Aileen is let's get these intuitive words correctly. Okay, she's an intuitive energetic healer and a channeler, and she is the creator of the Lighter Side. So the lighterside.info is her website. You can go learn more about what she offers, but she is a fabulous healer and a woman of much light, and I cannot wait to get inside her story a little bit deeper. So I'm going to pass the camera on to Aileen. I'm going to allow her to introduce herself and let us know where she's calling us from today or where she's videoing from today. And also I want to ask you the intro question of what does awakening mean to you? And when do you think your awakening might have begun? All right. And if any of that falls out, just let me know and I can ask it again. Okay, Aileen, welcome.
Hi, Riza. Lovely to see you. I'm Aileen. I live in the UK, so in a little village just south of London called Liss. Someone might have heard of it. And so yes, I'm based in the UK. Where did it all begin? She says. What does awakening mean to me? It's been a process, awakening, and that there was one major point in my life where I would say I was blown open. That's really, I would say, it wasn't a gentle opening. It was quite a major opening, and it all started. If I sort of skip back to sort of right, first of all, let me just say, I've had 5 children, 3 boys, 2 girls. I've been married twice, and I have my two youngest sons were from my second marriage. So in 1987, my daughter Zoe was diagnosed with cancer. So my youngest son then was 3.5 months old. It was just before Christmas, and we went into London for her to have surgery because she had this brain tumor. So that was sort of really the start of it. After she had a surgery and radiotherapy, I had a healer come in to see her because that was sort of something that seemed a natural thing to do. And he was always telling me that I could do this, I could do this. So things, 2 years rolled on. Zoe sort of recovered, although it was just a time frame we were on with her where they sort of say, if she stays clear for 5 years, so you're going down this countdown. So in 1990, Zoe became ill again, and she went to hospital. We took her to the hospital, and basically, after a little bit of haggling from me, I was told that she had 6 to 8 weeks to live. So I took her. So my thing was, okay, fine, right, I'm taking her home. So which I did. I don't know whether you'd be able to do that nowadays, but I did then, and they let me take her home. So Zoe actually lived for 7 weeks, but in those 7 weeks, she would say to me, when you put your hands on me, I have no pain. Then she would show me positions where to put my hands. So over these 8 weeks, I think I suddenly opened up. We could speak without talking. You could understand. We could communicate without words. So throughout those 7 weeks, there was it was almost like she was showing me things um, through that period. And then, as I say, she died. She was 12. She died, and it became my mission. It was like I had this mission. I needed to find out more. I needed to understand the energy more. I needed to know more. So that was my start. But and also within those 2 years period, I had another son. So that was Christopher and Charles. My oldest children was it was Zoe, Duncan, and Emma. So when Zoe died, the little ones they were 1.5 and 2.5. There's only 14 months between them. So I had 2 babies as well, so to speak. But I had this mission that I felt I had this mission I needed to understand. But it was quite interesting. It was a couple of weeks, I think, after she died. And my mum had taken the boys out for a walk. She used to come and take them out, so I'd have a little bit of space. And I'd gone up into Zoe's room, and I was distraught. It was like I just collapsed. I'm on the floor. I'm sobbing my heart out. And I'm saying, I can't go on. I can't do this. I cannot do this. I just felt my heart was broken. And it was also like a physical pain. It hurt. It physically hurts. And so I'm on the floor on my knees saying, I can't do this. I can't go on. I kept saying, I can't do this. I can't do this. And it was almost like somebody went like that, and my head went to the side, and under her bed I could see some school books. So I just put my arm out and grabbed this book, and it was an English book, and I'm going through it, and then I came across a poem that she'd written, and I hadn't seen it. And I read the poem, and it was almost like at that moment I knew I wanted to live. I wanted to live, and it wasn't just in a physical sense, because there was that split moment when I didn't want to live. Mm-hmm. And then when I'd read the poem, I knew I wanted to live, because we can be alive, but we can be dead inside. We can be closed, and we die inside. And at that moment, I knew that I didn't want to die. I wanted to live. And so, and the poem was called Me. So that became my mantra for years and years and years. So, and that's really what set me on the journey. That was 30 years ago this year, actually. So it's been a journey of awakening for the last 30 years.
Wow. I'm wondering if, it's amazing. I'm getting this ping because I've been on my awakening journey for 30 years as well. Awakening happened. But I'm curious if you have the poem handy and if you might share it with us.
Yes, I have it in. We'll talk about this after, but I can actually recite it because, as I say, I've said it hundreds and hundreds of times. So
we'd love to hear it.
So it's called Me. As long as I live, I shall always be myself and no other, just me. Like a tree, willow, alder, aspen, thorn, or cypress forlorn, like a flower for its hour, primrose or pink, or a violet, sung by the sun and with dewdrops wet. Always just me, to the day come on. When I leave this body, it's all then done, and the spirit within is gone.
Isn't that amazing? Yeah. What a gift. What a gift that she was able to bring that down and put that on paper and give it to you at that moment
Yes.
of need.
And as I say, it's been my mantra, and it was always, you know, if that's it, you know, that was her. That it was always that what she believed. That's how she saw herself. And I think the poem, over the years, as we journey through, it's enabled me to find me. It was also a process of, she had obviously found herself, but the poem has been something to enable me to find me. And, you know, all the ups and downs over the last 30 years, it's always been my go-to place. It's always my go-to place. I go there. And then it's that thing, you know, it was that the poem taught me was also to, in every situation, there's a gift. Always look for the gift, always look for the gift. And then I would, you know, with Zoe, it was what the gift. The gift was she chose to come to me, that I would be her mother. So that was a huge gift. The gift that I had her for 12 years, just over 12 years. So I had the gift of 12 years. I had the gifts of what she taught me. So many things she taught me. So that there were all the gifts, and the gift that she's still part of my life. You know, she's never ever, you know, she's still part of me. So she's still with me, she's still part of me. So I think, you know, you you can't always see the gifts, can you, straight away, but you can, you know, once you know the gifts and you look for the gifts, then yeah, you find those gifts, and that they're very precious.
They are. And I think that ability to see them and feel that gratitude for all that we've been given is such a important way to awaken the heart, right? When you talk about, like, we can stay in our body and be alive in our body, but we can be dead inside. We can be closed in our hearts and unable to feel the presence of our life and the vitality of life. Or we can have an open heart and we can really see, and we can really, I think that is awakening, right? To
Yes.
have your heart blown open. And sometimes it gets blown open and we patch the door and patch the walls and we close it back up and we reinforce it closed. Or sometimes it gets blown open and we manage to find the strength to keep it open and to keep experiencing life. And I think gratitude is that key in so many ways to keeping an open heart, is to feel that.
Yeah, that's true. And I think it's the, you know, going on from there. And then I worked, what did I do? I sort of, Reiki found me, I did aromatherapy. So I did the metamorphic technique. So over a couple of years after her death, I sort of did that, and then got a job, just phoned and said, you know, I do this, this, and this. Could you give me a job? And the lady said, come and see me. So I went a couple of days later, and it was, she had quite a lot of homes. She had about 100 children and young adults in various homes. She was the owner, and they all had very severe physical and mental disabilities. So for 5 years, I worked for them, with them as a therapist, and not one of them could speak, verbally communicate. So I always say they were my greatest gift, my greatest learning ground, because you could only work on an energetic level with them. So that I always sort of say that they were the grandest gift for me, because they taught me so much in that period. So that was another great thing of you know, the gifts that come your way as you're learning. You know, it's so I sort of did that. I also sort of I did that 5 days a week. I also had a therapy room at home, so I would work at the evenings. So it was this constant process of learning and understanding, or trying to understand. And I've come to the conclusion that, you know, the more you learn, the less you know. It's just one of those. It's a continual learning process for sure. So that was sort of a little bit how things sort of moved along. And then, so where were we? 2000, yeah. So then in 2003, I got a knock on the door at 2 o'clock in the morning, and there were two policemen there, and they'd come. I knew them because they were local. I lived in this, you know, where I live in the country, it's a small village, and they'd come to tell me that my son Duncan had died. So that was pretty horrendous, because there was no lead up to it. It was bam, you know, in your face, there it is. So that was extremely difficult, because because I wasn't with him. It's that mother that, you know, I wasn't there. So that was quite a difficult time. I think where I went into sort of hyper work mode with Zoe. This time I sort of, I slowed down a little bit. And so going through that process with him, that was February, 1st of February 2003. And then in the September, my brother died from cancer. He was in his early 50s. And then in the February, it was 2 weeks after Duncan's anniversary of his death. It was a year, and it was 2 weeks after. And I was watching my two sons play rugby, and one of their friends, he just walked off the pitch to pick up a rugby ball, and he collapsed and he died on the field. He was 15, a healthy young man. It was absolutely devastating. So I had this 12-month period where, again, it was a death. And I must confess, I didn't I not threw in the towel so much, but it was, I can't do this. I can't do this work anymore. I can't do it. You know, you got to be kidding me. You know what I mean? You really have got to be kidding. So then I took a little bit of time out for a couple of years.
Yeah. How did you care for yourself in that time? What did that look like?
It was, I think it was with my children, spending time with the younger children. I don't know, Christopher was 15. I think they were 14 and 15 when Duncan died. And then they had their uncle died, and they had their best friend die. So I think there was this whole process of really just sort of coming together and trying to step back a little bit and let them allow them to go through their process, which is not always easy for a mum, because you want to do it for them. You know, you don't want them to have that pain, but you know you have to step back and allow them to, as I say, to go through their processes. So that was a time. It was quite a still time, and I was just a mum, you know, where you just sort of become a mum and I put everything else aside, and just was there, you know, doing the washing, doing the ironing, doing the cooking, and just stopping. I think really slowing down and stopping. So
I get that image. I mean, I know it feels it's interesting that the term just a mom, right? And I certainly know what that feels like, because we have our home life and our kids, and then we have the work that we do with others and with the world. But the image I get is that this like bubble, we were talking earlier before we started our conversation, we were doing our meditation, we were talking about that paradox of the movement and the stillness. And the image I get is you inside this sort of light air bubble with your family, just really stabilizing this still place of encapsulation with all this chaos going on outside. So almost like an air bubble inside the ocean. And there's just all this life and all this movement going on outside, but you're just inside this safe, still, steady place. And that these mundane acts that we do, these acts that we do to keep our life going, the laundry and the cooking and the cleaning and these sort of things, these are very stabilizing activities, right? They create that solid, rhythmic, patterned floor of our lives. And so it's interesting to transition this story from your own awakening with Zoe and the awakening with Duncan and, this year of death initiation, to transfer that view from your experience to your experience of mothering your sons through that process as well. As they were very young when Zoe died, right? And then they were teenagers and coming into their own when Duncan died and when their uncle died and when their friend died. So that was really their initiation too into this death experience.
Yes, yeah, it was, as you say. And actually, when you were talking, it was really interesting how it's true. I sort of go into that still bubble phase when things like that happen. It's almost like I go into my bubble, and go through the healing process, for myself. Well, we can only do it for ourselves, can't we? But going into that bubble to be able to do that, and that is just so interesting you saying that, because I've been through another bubble. I went through another bubble. So, and crikey, so I'm just trying to sort of come forward and in time, in segments, because we talk about full awakening, or how we awaken, and it's through these processes that we do open more. But it was also being able to sort of keep your heart open and look for the gifts, to try and always look for the gifts. Mm-hmm. So we go to, there's a common theme here, gosh. if we go to, right, let's skip forward now. We'll go through to 2015. Yeah, so 2015, I have I'm one of six. I have 5 siblings. I have 3 sisters. There's 4 girls. Yeah, I have 3 sisters and two brothers. So so there were 4 girls and 2 boys. So, and I was the eldest of the 4 girls. So so in 2015, my sister Zena was diagnosed with cancer. And they actually only gave her, I think it was 3 or 4 months to live, but she got on a program and things like that. So that was 2015. In 2016, my sister Linda was diagnosed with cancer. Mm-hmm. And then in 2017, I was diagnosed with cancer. And when I was diagnosed, my sister Zena was not particularly good. My sister Linda had been in intensive care and was very, very poorly, and they didn't think she'd come through the weekend. And so I'm then diagnosed with cancer. So anyway, so I'm going through treatment. Both my sisters are going through treatment. And then in August 2017, my sister Zena died. God, she talk about the most amazing, energetic person. an absolute hoot. So so that was 2017, and I got a clear diagnosis. I think it was in October of 2017. But then in 2018, on the 21st of December, my sister Linda died, and she was another ball of fun. Two sort of different characters, but two of my best friends. They were my best friends. We were really, really close. So that was just before Christmas 2018. So come 2019, I was starting to go back into my bubble again. Mm-hmm. So I stepped back from everything. I stopped, I was doing no healing session. I was doing nothing. I was still, I used to do an angel of the month and things like that. And I was doing it. But in the end, sort of in the middle, first few months, it was like, no, you can't do this. Everything was feeling off. Everything I've been doing for 30 years, if I tried to do it or thought about it, everything was feeling off. Nothing sat right. So it's like, well, okay, then time to throw it, shut the door, and there we go again. Here I am again. So it was taking again that time, that space for me. So I would have reflexology, which is my favorite thing to have done. I would have massage. I would have quiet times, and just became really still again, really, really still again, because there didn't seem anything else for me to do. It was going back again to that stillness. Mm-hmm. So, and then I found art. Then I started painting. And that, I believe, was my guides, just nudging me back, because it felt like that everything I'd done over the last 30 years, that it just felt at the time like I couldn't do it anymore. That it just, nothing, it didn't feel right. Everything felt a little off.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Wow, it's like these rebirth periods that you've had in your life. We go through these different transitional states of consciousness, and one of them that we go through is within our lives. We go through these periods where we're sort of done. We're done with what we came here to do in that period of our life, and then we go into this state. So you're in these like void states, in these bubbles, right? And I get this really strong impression that that's the space that you also bring to your healing sessions. That when you do a healing session, you create that bubble of stillness around your, client or your patient, and you give them that sense of peace of being in that space in between, life and death, that space that's beyond the veil and isn't this or that, but it's just that stillness. And you give them a chance to repair in that space. And how wonderful it is that you can give that space to yourself, that you have allowed yourself that same healing that you give to others, to be inside that space in between. It's really beautiful. I know it always hasn't been willing. Point.
But it's that, and maybe this lockdown is, excuse me, it's forcing. It's almost like it's forcing people to be still, and to in certain sense to be in that. Well, we are, aren't we? I suppose, they're being forced into a bubble, yeah, kind of thing on one level. So, and yes, it's and that was really lovely what you're saying about healing, because it just, as you were saying it reminded me of in a workshop, and one of the girls, she wrote afterwards, it was that I thought it was going to be this, but it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. But you held that space, and I think that is it is holding that space, that stillness, and the work that I do with the points. It's very quick. It's not a long drawn out thing, but you have to, because it's so boom, boom, boom type of thing, you have to have that space to, to have that person in that space to be able to really get to the heart of the matter, or get to the point
Yeah,
of
yeah,
what's going on.
yeah. And it's interesting because I keep seeing this picture of you with Zoe in my mind, and you creating that being the birthplace of you knowing how to create that space. But that when you created that space with her, all of the pain, all of that contraction that was in her body just like whoop, went to the outside of the bubble, right? So you could create this space where the pain was on the outside, so you could actually be with her, and she was relieved of that discomfort that can be so distracting, right? When we're in physical pain, it's very distracting to our ability to be present in our body. We're fighting the pain, right? But so when you can create that space for someone who's in pain and suffering, whether it's physical or emotional, then you can really be present with them in that stillness. And that's such a gift.
And yes, you're so right. Actually, I'd never looked at it in that way before. But if I saw, as you were talking, I went straight back to those days, and that's exactly what was happening. It was that yes, creating that space. And I suppose in one level you do it you do it because you have that sort of that knowing. I've had this things where it's just, I know, I can't always explain it. I can't think. It's just because I know. And I suppose I hadn't really thought about it, but that has been transported around for the last 30 years. That knowing,
That's knowing, right?
But not knowing.
It's amazing because I think that, we come in with certain talents and abilities, right? But those don't get illuminated until there's greatest need. And so I see that like connection that you have with your child, and that feeling of greatest need, lighting that flame and illuminating this natural ability that you have, and your connection helping to illuminate, and her being the teacher to help you illuminate that natural talent. And this idea that I love, that awakening is not something we're searching for. It's something that we're in the process of uncovering, right? That the awakened heart always has existed inside of us. It's the truest part of us. It's just something that we're continuously working on finding and remembering and showing to ourselves and others. So I think our talents are the same, in a sense, that they're always with us, but we're in a process of discovering them or seeing them or understanding them.
Yes, that is so true. And it just it reminded me of how when I was studying aromatherapy and learning about the oils and things, and when I tried astrology and trying to learn the planets and the things, and I just couldn't retain the information in my head. I cannot retain the information. So it was, if I had a client come in, I knew what oils I had to use before they even come in the door, and I didn't know anything about them. So that's what I used. They were always the perfect ones, but I could not, sometimes I'd look up and think, yeah, I know what that means. Or what does that mean? Oh, right, yeah. Always right. It was that knowing. With astrology, I love astrology. It's always been there. And I'm just looking at, I think I've just seen the thing, my mum, she must have known as well. I have a plaque, and it's calligraphy, Chinese, and it says, aim for the moon. If you miss, can't see the rest of it, but it'll be okay because you'll still be among the stars. So it's this connection with the stars, but not being able to actually remember it. But I listen to people talk about the stars and the planets and things like that, and that's enough to me. I've given up the idea of studying astrology or whatever, because I'm happy. It's almost like but it's almost like I just need to hear people talking about them. So, it's really strange.
Yeah, no, it's how we all learn in very different ways, you know, and it sounds to me like you're a very energetic, sort of absorptive learner. And, you know, for me, you know, having a modality of healing done on me is how I learn. So if I have a modality of healing done on me, then I can do it on others. It awakens that knowledge inside of me. And I think sometimes when we pour a lot of information into the brain, it kind of gunks up the works. You know, it doesn't allow for that clear information to just come through and for us to just trust the information is correct. So that makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, so that was really interesting. And I think that's sort of when it came, when I said I started painting, there was this nudge to, I was actually watching, it was a video, it was a lady called Kim Tabay, and she's on a hivi.tv, and it's a free, you can go on there and watch her for free. It's, what's it called? There's an Art to Life, she calls it. And I was watching it this day, and I'm halfway through it, and I thought, I've got to paint. I need to do this. I need to do this. So it was like, okay, so I went and got an easel, I got the paints, I've got the brushes, I've got some canvases. Boom, here we go. So I put the canvas on the easel for 3 days. I looked at the blank. I turned it one way, and then I turned it another way. And then the third day, turned it another way. And then I had the picture in my head, and it was like, oh, show me again. And it was like, no. So I jotted it, you know, piece of paper. Oh, what was it? And then I painted it. And it was, you know, given to me. It was connecting to Sirius. It was it's called Nights Coming Home, and they'd been giving me nights. The nights, you know, the nights are coming home, and then I was told your nights are back. So there was this connection with the cosmos and with Sirius, and so I cannot always put into words when I painted, because I will get the picture and I will paint, and it's the energy. The painting is, you know, all color, everything, the vibration, the frequencies are within the paintings. So it's, I know it's, they're pulsing out this energy, and that's really all I can sort of say about my paintings, or the work that I'm doing. I've done other paintings. I have actually followed some of Kim's, and I have done some of her tutorials, because I'm learning, you know, sort of colors and things. So it's really good doing that. And I just yeah, Sirius again. So Sirius kept coming up for me. It's come up loads, and God, we could be here for hours. Anyway, but Sirius has come up for lots and lots and lots and lots, and it came up. Interestingly, it was in November. One of the guys I listen to is another one. I will say the name because somebody might watch him or be. His name is Christopher Witecki, and he has it's Sirius Joy. And I was listening, and it seemed every time he said Sirius this particular day, you know, when it's sort of like someone, it's like it's screaming at you. So in the end, I thought, oh, I'll just send him an email and relate back to 2010 and something that happened in Cyprus. So I send this, can you blah 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 blah. So I get a message back saying, actually, it would be a really good question for one of the teaching sections. So would you like us? Yes, okay, no, that's fine, he can do that. So I actually got my question answered on this was November, right? 2019, I wrote the email, and I got the answer because he's fairly busy, on the 4th of April this year, 1st of April this year. So it was incredibly interesting. You know, it was that was the reason I went to ask the question. But actually what he did, he looked a little bit in my chart.
Mhm.
And what was so interesting was my connection to Sirius.
Mm.
Also, he said I'm wired to channel,
Mhm.
and channeling is something that I've always done, but I've always resisted talking about it publicly or acknowledging that I channel. So so that was very interesting. So that's something also new for me, is actually, like you were saying, our gifts. And often we have the gifts and we know we have that gift, but we're afraid, or for whatever reason, to fully embrace those gifts. So that's another thing I think at the moment is, whether it be painting or whatever it is, it's being able to tap into those gifts and to honor those gifts that we have. And here's me saying it. I think things are happening a lot quicker now. They are definitely happening so much faster. So I think it's embracing those talents, or those yeah, those talents that you have within being, just, sort of start to take a step with them. That's what I would say, just to everyone, start taking the steps of those talents that you have.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think just being able to acknowledge what it is that holds you back from expressing your life fully, right, is really, really important in this day and age, because we need all of our talents on board, and we need all of us who are on the planet still, to be as active a participant as possible in creating the new. So that takes all of our talents, and it takes all of our expression ability. And I really think that all these levels of expression are a form of channeling, in a sense,
Mm.
right? Like when we paint and when we write and when we sing and when we, all these different things, even when we cook, like we're bringing energies that aren't material into the material world, and we're creating from that connection that we have. And I think that there's so many words and judgments and fears and, you know, ideas that we have that hold us back from our natural talents. And I like to think of it as a process of falling in love with ourselves. You know, when you're falling in love with someone, you really like notice them, and we get to experience what it feels like for someone to really see us and notice us and reflect us back. And in that falling in love period, it's so sweet, you know, when you're like noticing something like, oh, I noticed that you rub your feet at night before you fall asleep. Like, that's so cute. It's so weird. Why do you do that? You know, like you just start to notice these cute things about the other person, and it feels so nice to be seen. And so I think that it's an important process for us to go with ourselves, to begin to notice the things, the little idiosyncratic odd things that we do that are endearing, or the things like, these are serious talents you have. Like, do you know this about yourself? Like, you create this place of stillness to be inside of, or you have this ability to express yourself in this certain way that's really valuable to me. Like, for us to be able to self-reflect and not need someone else that we're in love with to reflect that to us, you know, but that we begin that process of self-reflection and self-acknowledgement, so that we can really embrace our gifts and walk boldly into the world with our gifts, because it benefits not only our own life to feel alive inside and to feel able to express ourselves, to honor the life that we all have, but also it obviously benefits our communities and the people that we're in connection with as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's that learning to I'm surrounded, because I'm running out of walls, so I've got paintings everywhere. So, but it is, I can look at my paintings, and I'm really learning to love my paintings. You know, it's that I'm not trained, or it's just a way that I can express myself and be creative. I've always made things, you know, with material, or, you know, since I was a kid, I've always made things. It's one of those things. And this sort of, it's just a new way of expressing myself. And it's just and because with words quite often I find it difficult with because a lot of it is on a frequency level, or I know it, I know the energy, I know the frequency, but I would struggle to find the words to put things into words. I would know it on an energetic level. It was like, yep, yep. And then, but then it's trying to put that out there. And I've come to the conclusion at the moment. I remember years ago them telling me that the words haven't been invented yet for what you want to say. So it's almost like, okay. And I have struggled writing, you know, it's where I would be able to, no, it's not happening. So with the paintings, that there are words within the paintings. There's one painting, I'm looking at her now, it's the Maid of Orleans, and she appeared on the canvas, and I couldn't paint the face because I couldn't. I tried, and then it was like I just painted, but she is in the painting. Her energy is in that canvas, within the colors. She is the Maid of Orleans, and her energy is in there, and she will be radiating that out. So I think at the moment words are trying to bring some of the, it's wordless at the moment. It's just working with, for me it feels like just working with the different frequencies and the new frequencies coming in, and different frequencies sort of coming together. That's like also sort of how would I say it? Like, you know, where you've got two, or if you do it in colors, you have a a color, you put the two together and you get a different color. So that's with the frequency at the moment. Yeah, we got that frequency, we've got that frequency, but yeah, now they're merging, so we now have that frequency. So I think that's what's happening, and that's why it's probably why I'm painting at the moment, I'm guessing.
Absolutely. It sounds like a process of like harmonizing the energy coming in, creating that bridge between what did exist and what will exist and what can exist right now, which is a really important task, not only for personal health, but for well-being of the community and the earth, right? To be able to harmonize those really extreme energies that are coming into the planet. And I agree with you that paintings, for me, paintings sing. I feel like every painting, every piece of art has a song that it sings. And that's how I interpret that energetic resonance, or the energetic emanation, right, is a song. I had the luck of growing up with artists as parents. Both my parents are artists and painters. And so I grew up in a house completely, every inch of the walls covered in paintings. And they all, have their own song and their own vibration and their own story to tell. So I know the significance of that, the importance of living with art and being able to express oneself in art. Really good care. And I think of Lee Harris. I don't know if you've heard Lee say this, but Lee says, that every sensitive person needs to be creative, needs to do some sort of creative art form. It's not it's a necessity. It's a necessity to the sensitive person. It's a way that we process energy.
Oh, that's really, I probably I probably do know that and heard him say that. And that is so true, because if I'm not, I'm busy knitting at the moment, because Chaz's wife Lauren, they're having their first baby in a few weeks, first week of June. So I'm knitting, and what I've found is especially over the last couple of weeks with the energies that have been going on, I would have to go and sit down and knit, and I sit there and I'm on a thing that's not a complicated pattern, so it's just I don't have to think about it, but I've got to go and knit. So I'll sit and I'll knit for a couple of hours, and then it's like, oh, right, okay, and then it's almost you can go off and do something, you know, whatever it is, and then it would be, oh right, I've got to go back and do some knitting. So it was almost like the knitting or that creating is by doing that, I think it's been helping sort of integrate with the energies and what's going on. So it's just doing that creative thing, whatever it is. For me at the moment, it's knitting. I can't get the paintbrushes out at the minute, but I think that's because of the energies. I've got there's a queue of paintings in here at the minute, but I haven't you know, it's like, no, I've got to knit in a minute. So because that's bringing me to back to center, I suppose, or just helping me be still to adjust to what's going on. So it's that. But I've always, if I'm not, I'm always making something or doing something, because
well, and so much of your energy is in your hands, it seems like. So much of your healing and creative energy comes through your hands, right? And so it makes a lot of sense that you need to make things with your hands, that you would need to, you know, when the image of you knitting is almost like taking a walk. Like some people need to take a walk or they need to exercise to like process energy through their bodies, right? But for you, it makes a lot of sense that your hands would need to go on a walk, or your hands would need to be doing something to sort of bring the energy all the way through and process it and integrate it out of your body.
Yes, and actually my friends years ago, they used to laugh because I didn't sort of formally meditate, but I used to say that I got my best ideas and inspiration when I'm ironing. I love to iron. If I go to the kids' houses, you know, I would say, have you, and we're there for a while, I'd say, have you got any ironing? You know, and or whatever, or if I house sit for all of them because they've all got animals, so I go and house sit. So you know, the boys usually leave loads of shirts, and my my daughter Emma's got 5 children, so but they're, you know, ranging from 14 to 22, I think we are now. So when you go there, you know, the ironing basket's up here, so so I will, they go off on their holidays, and then when they come back, you know, all their ironing is done, and shirts, you know, I love to iron shirts, but they used to say, oh, Aileen does the ironing meditation, because that would be like you say, if I'm ironing, then there's a lot of other stuff going on as well.
Yeah, I really want to, you know, I had one of these, I was doing these daily PSAs, I was calling them, that Spirit was giving me these different advice pieces when we first went into quarantine. And one of the things was to enjoy the slow things, you know, and the image I got was like to enjoy, to really sink in and enjoy those mundane tasks that we do for our life, you know, especially as mothers or as parents, you know, as homeowners, the things that we do to like keep our life running, and to do them slowly and to do them with intention and allow that to create more space inside your body. And I think that that's been really helpful for me to see those things as a meditation, right? As an opportunity to sink in, as opposed to being like, oh, this thing has to get done, I have to do it quickly so I can move on to the next thing. Just being like, no, I'm going to actually like, I'm going to really intentionally scrub this dish, or I'm going to really intentionally, I have a folding thing. I have a folding table in our basement. I strap the baby onto my back and I put on a podcast, or I just sit in silence, and I sit there and I fold all the clothes for the family. And that's one of my sanctuaries, you know, to be able to do that, is to just have this quiet space, and the baby zones out in the back carrier and watches the dryer or the washer. And I just sit there and I fold, and it's my Zen spot. So I certainly understand the ironing meditation. If I only ironed.
And that's it. It's like we were saying. It's also those seemingly simple things. You know, that it's those simple things to do. I'm actually being told that I need to tell you about the book, so I will tell you about the book. The book is called Dragonfly, and I what did I had this made, so it was a limited edition, and it's actually of the poems that were written by Duncan and Zoe. So as I say, it's called Dragonfly. The theme of dragonflies, they're very relevant. And actually the book is the paper is actually 100% cotton. It's from France. It's been made in the traditional way. It was made by a man that was trained by the monks at St Michael's Abbey in a place called Farnborough. So it's hand sewn. It's actually it's the printing. It's actually it was done on letterpress on a printing machine called Gertie. I don't know how old Gertie was, 100 odd years I think she was. So it's been done in totally the traditional way, and it was it was interesting you said something about it yesterday in your minutes, the past and the future. So then it was, I wanted the traditional art, this traditional way of making a book, basically the old way. This is how a book was made, but it's the voice of the young. So it was that past our ancestral or our older knowledge, retaining that and bringing it forward into the now, and with the voice of the young, because it's, as I say, it's their poems. So I've Zoe, obviously Zoe was me, so that is also in here. But there were two poems, and it's two poems that Spirit, I got a picture. That's when I started painting. It was, I got a picture in my head, then I was told destiny, and then I knew they were trying to, it was like the first dig of giving me some information. So it was actually to start looking at the poems and bringing the poems really forward and now out into the world. I had, as I say, this was a limited edition of 50, and it was done in 2010. So so if you don't mind, I will read two poems, and both of these poems were by Duncan, and as I say, Destiny was the first one. So they've only given me two poems at the moment, so I have the two pictures or the paintings to go for each of these poems, so that they're in the process of coming together. But I just want to read the poems.
Yes, please.
So the first one is called Destiny. Imagine your destiny waking today, following the script of your dreams. Picture the veil that represents doubt starting to split at the seam. The reality is closer than you think. It's now just a state of mind. Search your soul for everything that you ever wanted to find. Sailing the rivers of joy, sun-drenched thoughts in tow. Your destiny smiles on the horizon, showing you the way to go. Angels breathe in your sails, gently ever homeward bound, as the anthem of your future fills the air with a magical sound. The tears will dry forever as your destiny comes into view. Stay strong throughout the journey, because there's something there for you. Don't be afraid of where you're going, as the sunshine warms your face. Feel the warmth that glows inside as your destiny begins to embrace.
Amazing.
So that seems very, very relevant at this moment in time. For some, more so, it just seems very relevant. And this one, I've lost my place. Where did I? just ones. Yes, I've got them. This one, when Duncan, I first read this one, it just made me laugh because I said, it's called Monks and Tomcats. And it was like, how do you put monks and tomcats together? But again, I think this one is, so this is the second one that will come out and be reproduced. So now the monks live alone on the hill. They're at home when it's fit, where it's peaceful and still. To their God they declare in the silence of prayer. They wake every day just to chill. Now the tomcats are probably the best, most advanced fighter jets in the West. They cost millions to build. Their pilots are skilled. They're in a league above all the rest. They differ in content and style, but dedicate to their cause all the while. They feel close to their Lord when they live by the sword, but who can truly sit back and smile? A small valley in Scotland can't spare enough room for these people to share. Yet the monks' sacred space and the military base just happen to be located there. Scottish Highlands are huge, we can prove. The question is which one should move. Scriptures and dollars, pilots or scholars, which one of these lives should improve? Well, the monastery was there long before, and the Air Force is far from poor. But the reason I think, and here comes the link, is one trains for peace, not for war.
Mm. Mm.
So,
Amazing. I love that poem. I love both of them. It's amazing, our teachers, right? Our children are our teachers. They are this evolutionary leap forward, and to be able to accomplish so much in such a short period of time, both your children were able to come what they came for so quickly and give these gifts. Thank you for sharing them.
thank you. It was, it's been a long time. I say it's been, I sort of think about it, this 30-year process. Something came up with Zoe today, actually, something my son's doing, and which I didn't know about until yesterday. And so it was really interesting. And I said to him, about our talk today, and the poems, and I said, well, it's only taken 30 years, but she's dancing around at the minute, or I think they're both dancing around at the moment. And so it was just very interesting that this talk today, and the fact that something come up about her today and yesterday, which seemed really, really significant. It's I think it's been a long time coming, and I think they're, like as you say, they're words of wisdom. They have beautiful words of wisdom, and it's whether it's I think it's time now, because divine timing is always so spot on, and it's something I used to think at one point that perhaps I wasn't ready to let them go. I wasn't ready to let the poems go. But I think it's just, I think it's timing, and I think the timing is now. Mm-hmm. So
it is timing, and it's interesting. I get this image of you drinking from this like sacred well, and it's almost as if you've drank of these poems enough that it's okay. It's okay to share them. It's okay to share the well with other people. But they were sacred to you, and it's important that you took your time with them, to let them heal you and let them inform you in the way they needed to. So yes. I have one question. I have this in here, right? So there's this direction that I realize we're about at an hour, and I so desperately want to ask you a question as a mother, because I think that this is a really pertinent conversation, and you are an expert at this point, but we are so surrounded by our human collective right now is innervated with death energy, right? We are so in connection with death energy in a way that we generally are not. And I believe that death is a gift to the living, that when we choose to die, or when death comes upon us, that we are giving a gift of energy and light to the living, albeit through this avenue of grief and sorrow that is naturally accompanies the passing of a loved one. So I'm wondering, though, as a mother, my perspective on motherhood is that when we birth our children, we bring them through this life-death gateway, and we birth both their life and their death at the same time. And for most of us, we spend a huge amount of effort not seeing the death part of the life that we've brought forth, and not wanting to. My mom used to always say to me, whatever you do, don't you dare die before me. Don't you dare. Because she didn't want to experience that level of grief, you know, and it is, I think, the biggest fear for any parent out there, is that you would have to experience your child dying. And now you've experienced it twice, and both with children that were on the younger end of life. And so I wonder if you have any advice to offer people and how they can engage with death energy in a way that is helpful, in a way that honors the natural grief process, and in a way that enhances our ability to live fully.
I would say that, yes, I think that it's a worst parent's nightmare to think that they were going to, you know, they would lose a child. It is something you don't want to think about. You know, you just don't want it ever to happen to you. It's very, very difficult, but having gone through it, it's that gift. I keep coming back to the gift. I know it's really, really hard, and when you're in the middle of, or you're in that cauldron of shite, you know, the devastation, you're in that cauldron if anything was to happen to your child. But also it comes back to the gratitude of life. You know, life is precious, and life is a gift. Mm-hmm. And I think if we sort of really truly understand that within us, that life is precious and life is a gift. So when you have that within you, this preciousness of life, then I actually think flip that death, you can see the precious gift, because you can see the gift of the life. Mm-hmm. And that's what I would think, especially, you know, that's what I would say is, you know, you have your children in front of you, they're healthy, everything is going great, you know, that there they are. But I think we forget how precious they are, and that we have been given that child as a gift. That child is a gift, and all life is precious. All life is precious. You know, and our energy that we utilize and use, you know, use your energy wisely, use your gifts wisely, you know, be wise that you had that gift. And I think when you can feel that gift, and you can feel that preciousness in your children, and I think then, if, you know, if we can spread that out a little bit as well, then the gift of life, I think if you can acknowledge the gift of life, you can also acknowledge the gift of death.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. Those are very wise words. Very wise. I think that gratitude and being able to just feel, to drink up that gratefulness we have and all the gifts that we're given and that life continues to give us every day, just to allow us to stay here for this moment or this day. I think that allows us to be satiated with life. I think that what came in when you were talking is this feeling of not enoughness that we often feel with what we're experiencing, with how we feel or what's present in our life. That there's something wrong. There's this gnawing, there's something wrong, there's something wrong. And our mind is always trying to figure out what's wrong, what's not good enough. And it takes us out of our ability to just feel gratitude for what is. And often it's not until a loss or something really is, amiss, that we can go back and say, oh, I missed it. I missed the preciousness that was there. I missed some of those opportunities. I wasn't satiated, right? A friend of mine, there's so many different things popping up. I had a friend who lost a baby during birth, and she's done a lot of grief work around baby loss and child loss. She's popping up in my mind, Monica. But also what's popping up in my mind is Brene Brown, who studies vulnerability and loss. And she said that she interviewed a lot of parents who had lost children. And one of the things they said was, it's very difficult to be in conversation with someone who, often people, when they're talking to someone who's lost a child, they don't want to talk about their own children because they feel bad or they feel guilty or they feel uncomfortable. But that all the people she interviewed said, when you appreciate what you have, it makes me understand that you understand what I've lost. So the person who has lost someone precious to them or lost a child wants to know that other people truly see the gift that they have in their children and that they're appreciating them. And I think that is the gift of loss and the gift of death, is for us to remember, is for us to come alive in the moment, to look each other in the eyes, whoever it is, whether it's your child or your partner or your friend or a stranger you're meeting on the street that you're having a connection with, to just really look at that person and to really see them and appreciate the gift of that connection or the gift of that life that they hold inside of them. That's such a beautiful thing that I think we could practice more, especially as we're all facing the mortality of our species, the mortality of people that we love, and our own mortality in this time. I think it's a great chance for awakening to that gift.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you're so right. It is. And I think it's this, like we sort of briefly said, this slowing down at the moment, of what's happening, but the crux of the matter is we're all being shut down, basically. We've all been, put into our boxes, basically. And rather than it's twofold, you look at it as ourselves, because we've gone, what we really needed to come back and start looking at ourselves and working, sort of not what's out there, but what's in here. It was way overdue, but way overdue for us to do that. I've lost what it was. There was a flip side to it, but it's gone. But I think it was that way overdue for us to. Right. So it was actually time for us to reflect on ourselves or come into ourselves. But then if you look on the other side of it, what has it done? Actually, the earth has been given a breathing space as well. We've been given a breathing space and say, come on, don't stop. You can't look out there now. Let's look in here. And then that's given, so we are being given a breathing space. The earth has been given a breathing space. You only have to look at the clear blue skies. You can see the waters clearing. You can see all the animals. I think it was in Wales, they had the mountain goats were all in the village eating all the greenery because There was nobody around to shoo them off. And a friend in, oh God, where does Jen live? Connecticut, I think. Well, there was, or where there was a big bear walking across the road. I'm in the country and I hear the birds sing, and it's pretty quiet where I live. But even for me, they seem louder and louder. And as I say, the fish you see, it's incredible. So the earth is being given some breathing space. So, you know, so inside and outside, we've all been able to take a breath. So I'm hopeful that we move forward with a lot more gratitude and the gifts and the preciousness, and how our earth has started to revitalize herself. So I just, you know, my wish is that people can recognize the gifts that they found within themselves, and also recognize the gifts that by this situation it's given to the earth.
I know, I think we really need to see that. We need to see how the earth has the ability to heal and regenerate herself, and also see the impact that we're making on her through our activity. So I keep seeing this line, which is these three options. So when confronted with death, we can either become more fearful, we can become more grateful, or we can become more blind, right? So there's these two paths on the side that we want to really figure out how to come into this place in the center, which is this loving path. I hear a baby. I think I hear a baby. Yeah, it's okay. Just bring me the baby. Bring me this baby. Bring me the sockless wonder. Oh, it's a baby. It's a baby. Okay. Here she is. Someone's been outside. Someone's been outside.
Oh my goodness me. Hello, little one.
This is our friend Aileen. You want to say hi? You want to say hi? Just finding that middle path of feeling gratitude for all that we do have, and feeling emboldened towards our life, you know, by our relationship with loss and death. Because I see that, you know, in people who have survived cancer, I see these two sort of sides where people either become more fearful or more bold in how they live. And it's interesting, you know, we're all experiencing this right now, this brush up with death energy. And I feel like even the people who haven't lost someone or don't know someone directly who's died of the coronavirus are experiencing other sudden deaths as well. Hearing about all these different, like, very interesting, like, just people are coming off the planet really quickly right now. And I think it's to create a close enough connection to death for enough people that we can really change how we're living our lives and our hearts. And I'm reminded of this death dream I had years ago that was a big awakening moment for me. And the thing that the healer in the dream said to me is, you're being given this information to change the way you're living your life, which I think that is what I keep hearing about this whole period, is we're all being given this opportunity to change the way that we're living our lives. So we're seeing, right? We're seeing our earth heal and have a moment of respite from our activity. We're seeing ourselves have a moment of respite from our own activity, and a moment to address what's within us and what the state of our hearts are. And I hope, you're right, I hope that we all come into a state of gratitude and a state of clear-sightedness about the gifts that we have been given. I always say my children are my gifts, and the universe wanted to make sure I never forgot it, because they all came to me on a holiday. So my first child was born on Mother's Day. My second child was born on Christmas Eve. and my third child was born on the galactic new year.
Oh, wow.
Until the day after. I was like, did you know she was born on the galactic new year according to the Mayan calendar? I was like, no, I did not.
Wow, that is incredible. But you know, it was interesting when you were saying about cancer and things like that and how we view things. And I have issues sometimes with words that it's just me. And it was just this I couldn't it was like I was fighting cancer and you know, you've got to beat cancer. And I was saying to somebody, it was my son-in-law actually, and I was saying, well, I had an illness and now I haven't got it. And he sort of said, well, you can't say that because you had cancer. So I had this big issue with the cancer survivor. And also I sort of said, no, I didn't fight. I didn't fight it. I actually worked with my body to heal it. It wasn't a fight. I was working with my body, so it was never a fight. And I used to really get, oh, it was, you know, and I would hear it word. It's constantly, it's the fight against this, it's the fight against that. And I sort of said, you know, well, if you've had a heart attack, you're not a heart attack survivor, are you? If you've got over it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I would sort of use all these analogies, and but it's like, no, this is, it's that whole thing of it's fighting against something, or you're, you know, it's the words, it's actually the I you know, I wish people could understand more the importance of words.
Yeah.
And you know, their vibration, and you know what they're saying. You're saying something, and this is when I get this sort of thing with a word, or how a word's been saying. And words are incredibly important. You know, they have a frequency, a vibration, and they're incredibly powerful. They're so powerful. So, like, yeah, I don't, yeah. It was just, you mentioned that, and then there was these word things again. It's all about this word. Can I just say something as well? Yesterday, you were talking about, you know, the ancestors from the past, and then we bit to the, I'm drawing in from the future, and that there was that, and it was it was really significant, because the infinity signal came up on the paper in here. This paper I didn't know, but actually the watermark is an infinity sign. Would you believe? It's really weird. That is so this book is full of infinity signs, and it was popping up again today. I kept seeing it, and then I was thinking about what you were saying yesterday, and it was they were showing me the infinity sign, and they kept saying, right, we've now, you probably can't see, where you've gone round, and then we're coming to the sort of the crossover point. So we've got to this point now where we're crossing over, and then we'll be going up there. But it was saying we're just crossing this point, but it's actually drawing the knowledge, taking some of the knowledge, some as well, of this past, and but also then, so you get to this point, we're at that crossover point, but also drawing in the knowledge of the future. So you're in the, so it's the past, you're in the now, but you're drawing also from the future. So but it was just, I drew an infinity sign because it was coming up. And you also mentioned about, was it you then? No, it wasn't. It was Christopher Witecki mentioned the infinity sign signal this week when I was listening to something. So it's just been coming up a lot, the infinity sign. So
It is. That's so funny too. I'm getting this like image in my mind because I've been revamping my some of my website. You know, you mentioned earlier that you're working on your website, and I was thinking about how our website is sort of our online altar in a sense. It's our own online form. And of course, as we change, the form needs to change. And as the form changes, then we complete our change. And it's this cycle of communication between the energy and the form. But I'm redoing a lot of the images for my website and for my meditations. And I have a meditation called infinity looping, which is moving the infinity sign through your mind and through your body to balance off these different places. So balancing left and right hemisphere and so on and so forth. And I just redid the image last night. And so the image is very, I'll send a copy to you, or I'll post it here below this video. It's a powerful one. It's a powerful image. But yeah, the infinity sign, and that's just a great piece of advice to give to people too, is that if you're feeling off balanced, if you're feeling like you're having a hard time energetically coping, just even drawing the infinity sign on a piece of paper and tracing it back and forth can really help to balance your energy and clear your body. So it is powerful. And I love how you associate it with that birthing process of future to past, past to future.
That's so funny you saying that about the infinity. I used to do that as a child. You know, when you doodle it, I've done it all my life. Is that would be my doodle, or it'll be a sort of like a vortex. There were the two things. So I just imagine, I thought, oh God, yeah, I used to do that all the time. So as I say, you're doing it. So so that's a great advice, sort of doing that as well. The other thing is, I'm not sure with our time thing, one of the things I know I would like to do is I'm coming back now to very slowly starting to work. As I say, my website is being updated because a lot of things have changed. I'm starting to do more shorter versions of the healing technique I do, because I've always been aware of how our time and energy is precious. So it's trying to be very mindful of that. So so that I am going to put that back on my site. It's been taken off for a couple of years, obviously, because I haven't been doing that work because of all the bits and pieces that have gone on the last couple of years. So that's going back on. I will be having my paintings on there as well, so I'm going to upload those so that people can buy prints of paintings, and hopefully, because every picture has a story, but I have some on the ones that are more channeled, I suppose one would say, or the ones that have a story to them. I know certain information on them now, but I know there's more. I haven't been given all the information for each painting, so I hope to write a little bit about what's going on with them. And then I'm hoping, I haven't decided on which format to put the poems on, so that people can get the poems, or I don't know yet. So that's a work in process. Hopefully when this all goes out, it'll all be up and running, but if not, it's in the process. And one of the other things is it was because I actually, when I was I don't know how it come up, I was writing an email to you, and then I had this thing to draw a fairy flower, a flower fairy for you, and I ended up drawing two. So I sent a picture to you, and then you said to me, would you interpret it for me? Well, I used to use the flower fairies in workshops. So they're these beautiful flowers. Oh, would you believe which one I've just crossed?
Yeah, look at that. That's for my oldest child. I love it. I love it.
Can you believe it's that one? For those who don't know, that was one of the ones I drew. So that's really amazing. And I would use them as a tool in my workshops. And when I was I gave an interpretation of the two cards that I drew for Riza, and then I was talking to my son, and because he phoned and I just done it, and he said, "Well, Mum, why don't you, if you want to do a gift or as a nominal charge, why not offer a flower fairy reading? So it's not something I've done before, but I'm going to, I'll put it on my website just before this goes out, and it'll just be a nominal charge. It won't be very much, but maybe a 15-minute reading, and then I will also send you whatever flower fairy, just to look at that.
I love it. I love it. What a beautiful offering. Such a sweet offering for these times. So we'll have the link to that below this video.
So we'll do that, and then it would just be whether I put it up for a certain amount of time. I don't know yet, because it's all in the unknown. All I know is I will get it organized, and yeah, so that it's on there, so it will work. And then we'll do them, because it just seems they just seem the perfect thing to use at the moment. So that's something I just wanted to offer to people. So as I say, it's new for me. I've used them for many years in workshop situations, but not in this way. So
well, it's really sweet, and I think it's very timely. You know, we are wrapping up our time here, but I'll just throw in one more coin about the fairies, is that I always say with my kids, I don't like to teach my kids magic that I don't know exists. And I work with direct experience, and fairies are actually one of the beings that I have worked directly with and actually have seen in physical form. And I saw them first when I was going through my healing process after my big fire initiation. This story is on my website, but I got burned on a third of my face. I burned the skin off in a cooking accident when I was in my early 20s, and went into this was the awakening of my healer abilities. So I had great need, like we were talking about before. When you have great need, your latent talents can have a moment to emerge. And so I was able to heal myself from this burn that would have been disfiguring otherwise. And the fairies started coming to me. And one night I was sleeping, and sometimes when I sleep, my eyes aren't completely closed. This has been all my life. My eyes will be half open while I'm dreaming. And I was falling asleep, and I saw this flickering light, this golden light that was flickering. And in my dream space, I was like, what is that? What is that light? And then I realized my eyes were partially opened. And so I opened my eyes the rest of the way, and there was this golden fairy, just this little woman-shaped being with wings, and with this like kind of gossamer dress, standing in front of me, hovering, covering her mouth, laughing hysterically and pointing at me. And I was like, my eyes were just like wide. Oh my God, what is that? I like closed my eyes, and I could still see the flickering through my eyelids, and I opened my eyes, and she was still standing there, you know, hovering in front of me, laughing. And I started seeing them kind of zipping around my space. I never saw them quite as corporeal as that again. But for a while there, every time I'd go out, children would point at my face, and then they'd go like this, and they'd circle my head with their finger. And in dream time, I asked one of my masters I have these like master spirits that come and talk to me in dream time sometimes. And I was meeting with one of my teachers, and I said, what's with the kids and the pointing? Why do they keep pointing at me like that? And he said, oh, it's the fairies. They can see the fairies, and they're helping to heal you right now. So some kids, they can see them, and that's what they're pointing at. So I've always, had great affinity for the fairies ever since then. And I do teach my children about the fairies, and we work with the fairies, and we leave little cups of honey water out for them on our altars, on the kids' altars. And one of my kids admitted that he sticks his finger and eats some of the honey sometimes. But that's real magic. That they really do exist, and I have worked with them. So I consider that lovely healing magic to be spreading right now. And I thank you so much for that generous offer of trying something kind of new, and giving that love of the fairies, to the people that need it the most. I have a feeling people are going to take you up on that offer.
They are so beautiful, and as I say, I've worked with them and I love them. I just adore them. They are just so beautiful. And yes, I remember a girl saying, I've never been into, fairies, blah, 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 blah. But she said, I have so connected to the Blackberry Fairy, you would not believe it. She was absolutely blown away. It's, but they, you know, the, they're so soft and playful and gentle, and it's how these are drawn, they're beautifully done. They are so delicate and light, but they are so bomb. Don't be fooled, they are so powerful.
Yeah, they are. They are. I believe it. I believe it. Very magical. Aileen, thank you so
Right.
much for joining us. Thank you for joining us and bringing all of your magic and all your creation and the creative energy of your children as well. We really appreciate it. I think it's the medicine that we need in times like these. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure and a joy talking to you, Riza. Absolutely amazing. And thank you for creating these spaces so that I and people can come and have this lovely chat with
Yeah,
you.
I know. And thank you to the technology that allows us to chat over the ocean, the other side of the pond, the big pond of the Atlantic.
Absolutely. And I missed it. I didn't get there last year, and I was planning this year to, because I do pop over. So we will see. I'm hoping to get over to the States. If not this year, then whenever it's possible, I will be coming over there. So absolute joy talking to you, and I'm sure we will be talking again in the future. There's a lot going on.
Absolutely, absolutely. We'll have to have a second, we'll have to have a series of conversations. I'd love that. Okay, thank you so much, Aileen, and thank you to our audience for joining us today and this month, and we welcome you to join us again next month or look back on our archives on our previous conversations. There's just tons of goodness coming from so many people in our community, and I'm so happy to share it with you. So thank you so much for being with us, and I'll see you next time. Bye.